What up, y'all? Welcome back to Pics. It didn't happen. I am Fats King. I am always joined by my brother, the Yeti.
And you're like a Pop Tart. Well, fucking, let's go. Hey guys, how you doing?
That's because I have had the information that we're going to talk about today just festering in my fucking brain for
he wants
about
to get it out.
Dude, these dreams have sucked. This has not been fun. And if I never hear the word Moruta ever again, it will be far, far too soon. We'll explain all of the shit that I'm talking about. Today, we are going to be discussing Japanese war crimes, specifically Unit 731. Now, here's the thing. A lot of you fucking people don't even know what I'm talking about when I say this. So that's the main reason why we have to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Everybody knows about the whole, Nazi Germany, and some people know that America was doing some shady shit too. But like everybody's doing it like that. People are fucking garbage. And
from the 30s to like the fucking early 60s, bro, I think everything just sucked. It felt like everything we've read from the fucking the shit that we read for this and the shit that I read when we were doing MK Ultra and the shit that we're gonna read when we do the rape of Nanking. Oh, that's gonna be a great fucking story, by the way. Anyway, all of this shit happened around the same fucking time periods, and all of these different countries were all doing the same fucking kind of thing. But we'll get to that in a sec.
I mean, I just sort of wonder, before we get into all this, and as you were sort of talking about there,
everything sucks. That's the current events.
It's and we like to think that we're in a civil society and the world's better, and maybe we're not doing a lot of the things that were going on back then, but
it's not much
we
better.
Actually are. It's not better either way. I mean, we know there's black sites. We know there's, they never did shut down Guantanamo, like terrible things. And that's just like our country. Some other places, they just don't even have what we have. So just imagine how terrible the things that people are doing.
The current events is we are setting at 100 minutes to midnight on the doomsday clock. 100 seconds to midnight. I don't fucking know.
100. It's like 110 seconds or something.
It's the closest we've been since like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, it's bad. Again, people are fucking monsters, and I'm not going to get into politics. It's a terrible thing. War is fucking terrible. Like,
yeah, war is awful. There's no way around it. And today we're going to talk about some of the atrocities of war. But one of the light things I want to talk about, just to try to keep this as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So everybody's trying to stick it to Russia in one form or another. Like Adidas isn't selling them tracksuits anymore. Russian vodka is being pulled off shelves in America and Canada. And God damn it, those saints at Pornhub, they are being the best human beings they can. If you try to access their site from a Russian domain, you will be blocked. Pornhub is cock blocking an entire country. Have fun jerking off to that, son.
Yeah, Uncle Boris, have fun. You better use your imagination.
Ugh. I hate everything. I hate everything so much, and we're spiraling further and further closer to an inevitable downfall.
Yeah, it's not looking real good. Try to stay optimistic. I mean, I don't know. We need a hero.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with being a comic book fan, bro. I keep just waiting for like Superman to fly over the fucking horizon and fix shit, but Clark ain't coming.
Aren't we supposed to be? Isn't that the point of those? Like, we're supposed to be the heroes.
Well, how good are we doing?
Not great.
That's what I thought. Speaking of doing not great, let's get into this shit.
Yeah. So everybody, like we said, you guys all know a lot of the atrocity that the Nazis were pulling off. camps and all kinds of
yeah. We know about the millions of dead Jews and gypsies, various other races. We know about that, and I'm not trying to downplay that because
No.
fuck, I'm a Jewish man. But we're going to talk about an atrocity that is equal to, if not, I can't say if not worse. I will say equal to. It is
Definitely.
right there. It
Yeah.
is right there at the same level. And this is the thing: the numbers that are estimated, these are only fucking estimated still to this day, because all the information, we'll get to this too. All the information, they burned the fuck out of that, but tried to. All the information that we have as far as data is, it's estimated between 3,000 and 300,000 dead Chinese, Russian, American, British Allied soldiers, all being all being used as live test subjects and experimented on by the Imperial Japanese Army.
Yeah, and we're not talking like they're just testing what work. Sure, if biotoxin and they're really not, they just want to see what's going to happen.
The man who is the evilest son of a bitch I think I've heard of in a long time. The man's name was Shiro Ishii, or if the Japanese pronunciation would be Ishii Shiro, whatever, how the fuck do you say it? This dude was what?
You tried.
Yeah.
Credit.
Yeah, I'm not going to be getting the Japanese names or the city names right. I'm sorry. So anyway, in what is known as the Russo-Chinese or the Russo-Japanese War, it took place in the late 30s. A situation where Russian and Japanese soldiers were fighting close to an open water supply, and they noticed that both parties were coming down, both armies were coming down with dysentery. I believe was what the disease that they noticed it was. You know, a shitting disease, a horrible fucking way to die, by the way. But this guy Shiro Ishii, he created, or he realized that the shitting disease, the dysentery, was coming from the water, the fouled water that everyone was drinking. So he created this water filtration system. And that is what his first claim to fame was, because this water filtration system, it slowed, almost eliminated the dysentery on the Japanese side, which allowed them to win this particular battle. And in this going on, he thought to himself, this is something that was taken straight from a quote from a movie and a quote from a book. He believed that the nation of Japan wasn't rich in metals and things to make machinery and guns, so they had to find better weapons. And his idea of better weapons would be biological and germ warfare.
Yeah, and him sort of figuring that out led a lot of credence to sort of what the cover was for this whole operation. It was sort of in guise.
So this is what the code name for Unit 731 was. And Unit 731 wasn't just one base. It was like 5 or 6, 7 bases spread all throughout what was known as Manchuria, or there was a Japanese puppet state that was also there inside of Manchuria, which was, if anybody knows what a puppet state is, it's a fake fucking occupied forces government that they put in place to make it look like the Manchurians had some kind of government. But anyway, so they set this up, and that's why I'm telling you that there were multiple units, because Unit 731 is just an umbrella for all of these units, similar to how there's not just one concentration camp. There was Auschwitz, Dachau, Birkenau, all that shit. But anyway, so they decide, like I was saying, that they need to figure out biological and chemical warfare. They need to weaponize this and find a way to use this against specifically the Russians. And wouldn't you know it, just like the MK Ultra project, all of this evil was done in the name of beating the Russians.
Well, yeah, always. It's always about. It's always a noble cause, and it's always we're a lot of secrecy, and a part of the reason why they keep those things separated is for plausible deniability.
Oh yeah.
Because
Now
you just keep everybody working on little pieces of things, but then once you put them all together, and you're the only one that knows what it's supposed to look like,
it's an evil fucking Voltron.
Yeah, it's an evil fucking Voltron. That is exactly what it is.
So anyway, now you're asking me, where were they going to get all of these animal test subjects for to figure out how all this German biological warfare works? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you, stupid, is they didn't use animals. They used Manchurian Chinese prisoners for the nation they were occupying. They used Russian POWs. They used American POWs. They used Japanese criminals. They used live test subjects to fucking to do this. And the way they went about this was one of their favorite things to do was to inject a healthy person with a disease, and then take chlamydia, typhoid, plague. This is probably the worst. This really is the worst part. Honestly, I feel like this is the worst thing that they did. So they would take a person and they would inject them with a random disease. Yeah, okay. Then they take a healthy person and they put them both on a table beside each other. And then they take the healthy person and they cut them from the throat to the belly and they open them fucking up. And alive. They did this while they were alive. Anesthesia was. This is real funny. In every piece of source material that I went through, they said sometimes anesthesia was used. Most of the time, it was not. Now here we are. We have a live person on the table who's now been laid open from their throat to their fucking groin. That's called vivisection. Now that live person, their organs would now be taken out and put into jars. Now they would vivisect the person who they'd just given plague to. And they would look at their organs and they would compare the differences between plague-ridden organs and healthy organs.
So you ask, well, why, how are you people okay with this? You know, how most people, of course, didn't know about it, but a lot
of the ones that did.
Yeah, the ones that did, first of all, some people just straight up were twisted, evil bastards. And,
but in their mind, they weren't being evil because okay. So what he's getting
that's the thing. They don't think they're evil because that information could save their people. So, and that's part of the reason, as you referred to the earlier with the dehumanizing of the enemy.
They
to kill and poison them because, well, I'm going to save my people. These are just nothing. They're nothing.
Yeah, well, they weren't just nothing. They had a term. This has been in my fucking head for a week, and I'm so ready to talk about it. So, one of the running jokes, it's a running joke amongst these fucking barbarians. One of the running jokes was they told all of the people in the surrounding village when they asked what this was, they said it was a lumber mill. Now, why is that a running joke, you ask? Because they called the human victims Maruta. Maruta is a slang Japanese word for log. So they said these humans, these prisoners that they were experimenting on, they called them Maruta, logs, not humans.
Yeah, to the point they would actually be like, and not how many people died, it's how many logs fell.
Yeah, how many logs did you cut down today? And it went so far as they had a youth corps of children, boys from 15 to 17 were all on site. There were about 3,000 people on site at all times, doctors, soldiers, youth corps, and they had these youth corps boys. They would be put in front of the Maruta. They'd ask them, "What is this?" It's a Chinese person. No, it's not. Hits them with a fucking stick. You know what I mean? And they beat them and yell at them until they said, "That's a Maruta. That is not a human. That is a log. That is not." So it makes what they were doing to them so much easier because it's not a person to them.
And
It's easier.
we still use those exact tactics to this day.
Yeah, but the easiest way to hurt someone is to not view them as a person.
Yeah.
So that's just one. Like the vivisection is just one of the countless atrocities. And here we go. Let's start naming.
Warning, it's gonna get real deep. It's not gonna get any better from here. So
the overall arcing thought that I've got from all of this is when science is allowed to go unchecked, it becomes a monster. Because all of this was done in the name of science, all of this. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the frostbite treatment. Okay.
Oh,
so the Ishii and his subordinates, they knew that there would possibly eventually be a war on Russian soil. So they knew they were going to have to prepare their soldiers for what it would be like to face frostbite conditions and what they would have to teach their medics in order to treat frostbite conditions. And how do they figure this out, you ask? They take a prisoner, Maruta, and they take them out into the freezing, frigid Manchurian fucking winter, sub-zero temperatures. What was I think they said it was 30 below? Is what it was?
Like 30 below.
It was just an obscene, ridiculous amount of temperature. And for 10 hours, they would just dump water onto these people's arms or their feet or their toes, whatever. And they would just dump the water on them, and
kind of in a sheet of ice.
A sheet of ice, like a perfect shell of ice, like legitimately a whole hand's completely perfect.
Have you ever been to like the Renaissance fair and like you dip your hands in the wax and you make a little sculpture of like your hand? Well, ice water instead of wax.
Yeah, but again, and so when the hands would be covered with ice, the guard would come over and he'd break off the ice with a stick, and then they dump more water on this person's hands.
Yeah.
And they would do this over and over and over for about 10 hours. And then they would take they would take the woman or the victim inside. They put their arms inside a warm temperature bath. Not hot, not cold, just warm. And then they'd pull the arms out and they would investigate them and they would check them out. If it wasn't where they wanted it to be yet, they'd take them out for another 10 hours and give them another 10 hours of freezing treatment. And then they'd bring them in and they'd do the ice, they do the warm bath treatment again. And then they would fucking tear the hands. They would literally tear the flesh, all of the hand off of the bone. Why? What if?
Yeah.
What if? Why?
Just why? And
why?
Like you can try to spin that into, oh, well, you know, what if the soldier, something happens and blah, 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 blah. But these guys, beyond that, they were doing stuff that there's nothing you could even remotely think that somehow this would be battlefield related. They had children and they would actually force these women to have children so they would have more test subjects.
Oh, so much rape, so much fucking rape. Every woman in those camps were so raped, almost to the point of being inside out. Fucking hell.
Yeah, and they would like. There was an instance where they took a newborn, I think so they said 3-month-old, and just put it outside in the, you know, these negative 30-degree temperatures,
just to see how long it takes for it to die.
Yeah, how long does a baby take to die of cold?
Cold, yeah. This was another one this was another question that they felt they had to have an answer for. Exactly how long does it take for a human being to die having only being given water? Exactly how long does it take for a human being to die being only given food? These were all questions that they had to research, and they researched it by testing it on human subjects. That's the part that I keep having to hammer home. These were live human subjects. One of the worst ones that I heard was they had a woman who was giving birth, and she had syphilis, and she was giving birth to a child, and they were measuring while the woman while the umbilical cord was still attached to the baby and to the woman. They were measuring the amount of syphilis that the woman had passed on to the baby, you know, before they fucking killed them both. One of the officers had said, of all the men that he sent to Unit 731, none of them ever returned. Ever. If you were sent there, you knew you were going to die. But the thing is, you weren't going to die quick. You weren't going to die fucking easy.
No.
like, okay, so for example, somebody who had the frostbite torture, they didn't get shot when the experiment was done. They just fucking put more frostbite torture on their feet. They said you could tell the victims of multiple experiments because they'd just be in the corner, no arms, one fucking leg, covered in fucking sores and pus bumps from other fucking chemicals and diseases.
Yeah, they would, just spin people around until your eyes came out.
Yeah. They would test the G-force on a centrifuge. They would literally spin people to death. How the fuck do you spin someone to death? Hyperbaric pressure chambers. They would take people and they would put them in, and they would turn the pressure up, and they would take the pressure and they would turn the G's up more and more and more until someone's intestines burst out of their ass. How long did it take for their intestines to burst out of their ass? Oh, did you notice this guy? It took 10 minutes for his intestines to burst out of his ass, but it only took 8 for him. What was the difference? Let's cut them open and find out.
And I don't want to just sit here and just list off all these terrible things, but we really do want to drive home that it was just absolutely disgusting, the things that were done.
This is some of the worst shit I've ever heard, and I am not ashamed to admit I've shed some tears. Those were some of the random ass experiments. Let's talk about the weapons that they figured out from this. So they would take plague ridden, that's bubonic plague, Black Death, the thing that almost killed the whole fucking world at one point, and they would cultivate plague ridden rats, and then they would cultivate those plague ridden rats with fleas, and then they would take the fleas of the plague ridden rats. So now you have these fleas that are guaranteed to spread the bubonic plague, and they would load them into what they called ceramic bombs.
Yeah, because the regular bombs weren't working because the high heat from the bomb kept killing
the fleas. So goddamn, it just kept killing the fleas. And it would also sterilize the germs. So the plague-ridden fleas would be loaded inside these ceramic bombs, and then the ceramic bombs themselves would be sprayed down with cholera or typhoid or what the fuck ever, and they would be dropped on. The plan was to drop them onto cities. Now I say the plan because it did happen. The plan was to drop them onto different cities in China, and it would release when the ceramics exploded, and they would release the plague-ridden fleas, and then the tiny pieces of the ceramic bomb are now coated in cholera, typhoid, dysentery, whatever. And so now you have 2 different epidemic level illnesses just ravaging a said area that was outlined on it. And do you know how they figured out how these would work? They took the Maruta, they took the victims, and they would put them on an open airfield, and they would strap them onto these crucifix-looking things, and they would fly the bombs over, and they'd drop them down, and they'd have them at different intervals of the distance from where the bomb would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a scientific method. They made sure that to record everything.
Oh, that's the other thing. Like, we're not talking about some goofy mad scientists who were just playing at shit with junk science. This was detailed, calculated, fucking down to the decimal point of the results that they wanted to get. So again, they would have the victims at different intervals of where the bomb would land, and then they would measure how much of the plague or the cholera or whatever was in each victim per distance from where the bomb had hit. And do you know how they figured that out? Vivisection. Right back to the old standby. Lay them on the table, split them wide open, and look at their organs. One of the testimonies said that they were so ecstatic with the results of the test because as they had the Maruta laid open, they were watching his organs disintegrate.
You can see how people that are incredibly curious and have a streak of evilness would find this to be completely sane and logical because there's no other way to get this information.
There's no other way to get this information,
and that justifies it to them in their mind. There's no other way. Then we just have to do it because we have to know this.
Well, were experimenting in what was known as something as epidemic hemorrhagic fever. Okay, and when they were submitting results for the test, they kept using the term monkeys, just the word monkeys. Okay, and the thing is, anybody who knows anything about scientific method, if you're testing on an animal, you have to say what kind of animal it is. You can't just say monkey. You'd have to say rhesus monkey, chimpanzee, whatever, because there's so many different kinds of monkeys. So you can't just say monkeys. And they were the levels of fever that they were submitting for results in these monkeys was far too high for a fever of a monkey to ever be able to reach. They knew they were
long monkey.
Exactly. They knew they were committing evil because they didn't want to fucking talk about it. Every member of every soldier, every doctor, every person in the camp was told when they were about into the city to not tell anyone who and what they were, who they were and what they were doing there. Ever. It was of the highest classification.
Right.
You know what that means? It means you're doing something fucked up.
Yeah, that is exactly what that means. And what is on with the using the monkey designation? Obviously, it was
more dehumanization.
Yeah, and keeping people, in the dark that didn't know what was going on or who they didn't deem needed to know. But it also allowed them to submit their findings to global journals in the scientific community. Give them that bit of credibility because, well, it's nothing wrong. It's just an animal.
So all of this shit went down between the early or the late 30s and it ramped all the way into World War II. And you're asking yourself, well, how did this end? What put a stop to this? Well, 2 nuclear bombs from America and the entire force of the Russian army bearing down on the Japanese imperial forces that were in Manchuria and China. Now, when it was finally known, when orders were given from Emperor Hirohito down the line to all of the higher ups in the Japanese military that it's over, we surrender. Ishii, the evil motherfucker at all of this, the key figure, he ordered all of the information burned.
Another red flag.
All of the data gathered from all of the fucking experiments burned. All of the test subjects left alive, killed. Now this is why we don't know the real number of how many did or didn't die, is because information about this shit is really hard to find because, as I stated, this motherfucker ordered all of this burned and destroyed. And then once all the information was burned and destroyed, the barracks and the buildings themselves were bombed to the ground with dynamite. No evidence left behind. And then they were gotten on a train. And it was originally ordered that all the men and families were going to commit suicide because no one can have this information. No one can know this information. Not just the doctors, their wives and their children. No one was supposed to leave on these trains. It was supposed to be bodies. But one of his subordinates, one of his other doctor generals, suggested, how about we just take bottles of cyanide with us, and if we do get caught, then we'll kill ourselves. But if we make it back home to Japan, we'll be fine. And he evidently, Ishii viewed that as acceptable. And he said, fine, but no one is to ever speak of this, ever. You're never to take a job in a government position. No one can know of any of the things we've done here. As you were saying before, red flag.
Yeah, and what's crazy is how did we end up finding out about this stuff? How did it get out?
So eventually, people started coming forward because they couldn't live with the guilt they had. There were Chinese spies who'd made it out of the prisons. And Uncle Sam himself
made a sweet little deal like he likes to do when it benefits him.
It's so hard to talk about. So if you know anything about Operation Paperclip, it's what we let the Nazis get off with on what they did and how they were, and how not all of them, but a good chunk of them were allowed to avoid war crimes for what they had done.
Because remember, the only way to get the information is if they die, and well, they're already dead, so we might as well take the information, right?
Yep, might as well take the information. So anyway, in order to battle the Red Menace, the big old villain in all of this, so the script is being told. The script is told. A sweetheart deal was cut for Ishii and all of his subordinates and all of his doctors, so that they wouldn't have to die by hanging for war crimes, so that we could get all that sweet data before the Russians did.
Yeah.
We pardoned some of the worst human beings on the planet, some of the evilest men who have ever drawn breath. We pardoned them so that our rival forever couldn't have the information. We let them get away with the worst things ever.
We did find out from that deal that maybe those bombs that we dropped were pretty well timed, as they did have plans to drop plague bombs.
There were going to be attacks. There was a planned attack at San Diego. They were going to have a submarine launch a seaplane, and they were going to drop plague bombs all over San Diego. Now, I didn't talk about this before, but I'll get to this just to ramp it up. They did drop plague bombs and cholera bombs and all this other shit. This wasn't just on test subjects. They dropped these in so many cities in China and Manchuria to get the results they wanted. And here's the thing: it didn't fucking work. It didn't help, and it didn't stop them from losing the war.
No, not at all. And if you ask them, they would say it's because the government didn't believe in them, and they didn't believe in biological weapons, and they should have been doing more and faster, and they should have invested in this even harder. So it really just goes to show how monstrous
science, if left unchecked, is the fucking devil. It really can become some of the worst shit ever. And this is the last slap in the face about all of this. The Japanese government has maintained for almost 80 years. God damn, it'll be so, oh my God, for so long, that this didn't happen, or it wasn't as bad as everyone's saying it was, and they refuse to apologize. They don't even teach it in their fucking school books. That's why nobody knows about this.
They're not really big on taking responsibility for their actions.
Well, but how could it be that way when there have been countless doctors and soldiers who come forward and said, yes, all the things that you heard are true. Every nightmare that you heard about this place existed. Could you imagine? Okay, I don't want to get into the supernatural or whatever, but when horrible shit happens, there's a stain left at that site. There's no way around it. Could you imagine how fucking haunted someplace like that is?
Oh, absolutely.
So that was our deep dive into Unit 731. None of these bastards ever faced any justice. The government refused to, like I was saying before, the Japanese government refuses to apologize or admit what they did. They're still finding abandoned chemical bombs sites in China still to this day, where the Japanese, when they fled, they just left the shit behind.
And if you try to bring it up, you're probably just a crazy conspiracy theorist, because, well, that's really the key to how they get by with a lot of this stuff and can just keep on denying it. They just make everybody look crazy. And it really helps when, they're the ones that made you crazy in the first place.
Yeah. So in closing, this has not been fun. This was not a good experience. We'll continue to do shit like this, because I hope you guys enjoyed this, because this took effort.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
On my part.
Let us know in the comments if you guys like hearing about shit like this, because if you guys don't dig it and you don't want to watch it, we're not gonna fucking do it anymore. Because,
oh no, I'll still keep talking about this shit. Like we like this kind of shit, but this was heavy. And that's what I'm saying.
Go a little less heavy though. Like
as somebody as somebody who likes serial killers and likes conspiracy theories and shit like that, like this was heavy, and
yeah.
I'm glad that I hope that people, when they watch this, they go and they research this shit on their own and they learn about it the way we did, because the only way that it wins is if history forgets it, and this is not something that history can be allowed to forget ever. Absolutely. Fuck.
So that's gonna be it on this one. Next week we'll be back. We're gonna have another great interview for you guys, and when we get together to do something like this for the next one, we're gonna lighten the mood a little bit, get something a little happier going for you guys.
Gonna talk about Action Park, and that's the only fucking clue you're getting from me.
It's gonna be a good time. So we're gonna put some thought into that and look forward to bringing you guys something a lot more fun. And
speaking of lighthearted and fun, there are some badass shows coming up. On March 4th, Twisted brings their old school oddities show to the Thompson House.
I'm so excited.
This is such a dope ass venue. And on top of being a dope ass venue and Twisted, Fun Time Gang will be in the fucking building. That's right. Your favorite drunk luchadors whipping legs will be gracing the stage.
Yeah, and we're gonna be there. And
Pics will be in the building. Come say what's up, motherfuckers. We love to talk.
Yeah, it's gonna be a super fun time. And
we'll have a few of them sick ass stickers that we've been selling on us. If you want to pick them up, if you while we're there, you can still pick them up at the PayPal.
Yes. Well, we're also we've got the
I will be one half of Pics Here Didn't Happen will be in New Haven, Carl's Tavern, for the makeup date for the Terminally Ill tour. AXE, the Michigan Misfits, Red, Cody Manson. This is and the homie Keegan Grimm. This is going to be a dope ass fucking set.
Yeah, Carl's always dope. So
and then to just cap March off with a big old fucking bang, we have the super famous Fun Time Show 2. This will be at the Emerson Theater on March 26th.
That's in Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis. I don't know if you can go. It sucks if you can't.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to go, but you guys should go, and then you should tell me about how awesome it was in the comments on the video.
Oh, yeah, and again, like I said, if you're going to be at any of those shows, hook up with a motherfucker. I got shit to talk about, and I usually got blunts to smoke.
Yeah, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all of our social media so you can keep up to date with all the cool shit that we're trying to do. And let us know what you want to see. And we're going to try to, I guess, make some more content for you guys.
We're working on shit. I am not going to give you any clues, but I've got irons in the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit better at this, so we're going to try to level up. We're going to try to level up some more for you guys, bring you some new cool stuff. So with that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Pics, or it didn't.